I was wiping down table 7 when I heard it. The CEO everyone feared was about to drink poison. His girlfriend was smiling. My hands froze. I had two choices: keep my minimum wage job and stay silent, or risk everything to save a man I'd never met. I chose wrong. Or did I? Before we dive into this crazy story, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because you won't believe how this ends. Trust me, you'll want to hear every single detail. Now, let me take you back to that night, and I promise you, by the end of this, you'll understand why sometimes the smallest voices can make the biggest difference. My name is Rebecca, and 6 months ago I was nobody. Just another tired waitress trying to survive in a city that eats people like me for breakfast. I worked double shifts at the Golden Terrace, this upscale restaurant downtown, where people spent more on one meal than I made in a week. The chandeliers probably cost more than my entire year's salary. But it was a job, and in this economy, you don't complain about having one. Every morning, I'd wake up in my tiny studio apartment, the one with the leaking faucet I couldn't afford to fix, and I'd tell myself the same thing: just get through today. My student loans were drowning me, rent was always late, and my dream of opening my own little cafe seemed like a joke I'd told myself in a different lifetime. But I kept showing up, kept smiling at customers who barely looked at me, kept pretending that everything was fine. The restaurant was the kind of place where you could feel the money in the air. Businessmen making deals over steak, socialites picking at salads they'd never finish, and couples celebrating anniversaries with bottles of wine that cost more than my monthly grocery budget. To them, I was invisible, just a pair of hands that brought food and cleared plates. And honestly, most days that was fine with me. Invisible meant safe. Invisible meant I could pay my bills and go home. But there was one customer who was different: Adrian Stone. Everyone knew who he was. CEO of Stone Industries, worth millions, maybe billions for all I knew. He came every Friday night, always punctual, always reserved table 12 by the window. And he always came with her, Natasha, his girlfriend. She was the kind of beautiful that made you feel small just by being in the same room. Tall, elegant, always dressed like she'd stepped out of a fashion magazine. Her jewelry alone could probably buy my apartment building. Adrian was quieter than you'd expect from someone so powerful. He never snapped his fingers at us or treated us like servants. A simple thank you when we brought his food, a small nod when we refilled his water. Natasha, though, she was different, cold, demanding, the type who'd send food back 3 times just because she could. But Adrian seemed devoted to her. You could see it in the way he looked at her, like she was the only person in the room. I'd been serving them for almost 2 years. Same table, same day, like clockwork. I knew his order by heart: medium rare steak, no sauce, steamed vegetables on the side. She always got the salmon, barely touched it, and complained about something random. It was routine, predictable, boring even, until that Friday night. The restaurant was packed that evening, every table full, kitchen running behind, and my feet were screaming after 6 hours straight without a break. My coworker Danny kept giving me sympathetic looks from across the dining room, but we were both too slammed to even talk. When Adrian and Natasha walked in, I grabbed my notepad and headed to table 12, running through my usual script in my head. But something felt off. I couldn't put my finger on it at first. Natasha was being different, sweeter. She was laughing at everything Adrian said, touching his hand across the table, looking at him with these soft eyes that I'd never seen before. If I didn't know better, I'd think she was actually in love with him. But I'd served them enough times to know what their normal looked like, and this wasn't it. I took their order, the usual for both of them, and headed back to the kitchen. The night moved on in its chaotic rhythm. Plates in, plates out, smile, nod, repeat. About 20 minutes later, I balanced their appetizers on a tray and made my way back to table 12. The bottle of wine Adrian had ordered was already there, poured into 2 glasses by our sommelier. As I set down their plates, I noticed Natasha watching me with this strange intensity. It made my skin crawl, but I kept my professional smile plastered on. I was reaching for Adrian's appetizer when I saw it. Her hand, quick and smooth, slipping something small into his wine glass. A tiny vial, emptied in a second, then hidden back in her purse. The whole thing took maybe 3 seconds. She stirred his glass with her finger, then licked it clean, smiling. My heart stopped. Did I just see that? Did that really happen? I must have frozen because Natasha's eyes locked onto mine. For a moment, we just stared at each other. Her smile never wavered, but her eyes, they were ice, cold and threatening. It was a look that said, I dare you to say something. I dare you. My hands were shaking as I finished setting down their plates. Adrian didn't notice anything. He was looking at his phone, responding to some email probably. The wine glass sat there between them, innocent and deadly. I mumbled something about enjoying their meal and practically ran back to the kitchen. In the safety of the chaos behind those swinging doors, I pressed my back against the wall and tried to breathe. What did I just see? Was it poison? Medicine? Maybe she was putting some kind of supplement in his drink. Maybe I was being paranoid. But that look she gave me, that wasn't the look of someone doing something innocent. Danny found me there, hyperventilating. Hey, you okay? You look like you've seen a ghost. I'm fine, I lied. Just need a second. But I wasn't fine. Through the small window in the kitchen door, I could see table 12. Adrian was laughing at something Natasha said. His hand was moving toward the wine glass. My mind was racing. What do I do? If I say something and I'm wrong, I lose my job. Natasha would make sure of it. She had that kind of power. But if I say nothing and something happens to him... Time seemed to slow down. I watched his fingers wrap around the stem of the glass. He lifted it toward his lips. Natasha was watching him with this eager, hungry expression. Everything in my body screamed that something was wrong. I didn't think, I just moved. I grabbed the nearest tray, loaded it with the heaviest items I could find, and burst through those kitchen doors. My heart was pounding so hard I thought everyone could hear it. I was walking toward table 12, the tray balanced on my shoulder, Adrian's glass almost to his lips, and then... I tripped. Or at least, that's what it looked like. My foot caught on absolutely nothing, and I went down. The tray flew from my hands in a spectacular crash. Plates shattered, food splattered everywhere. And Adrian's wine glass? It went flying across the table, red liquid soaking into the white tablecloth, dripping onto Natasha's cream-colored dress. The entire restaurant went silent. Natasha screamed, not a little gasp of surprise, but a full, rage-filled scream. You stupid, clumsy idiot, look what you've done. This dress costs more than you make in a year. I was on my hands and knees, surrounded by broken glass and ruined food, and I'd never been more terrified in my life. But Adrian, he wasn't angry. He was staring at the spilled wine with this strange, thoughtful expression. My manager, Stuart, came running. I am so sorry, Mr. Stone. This is completely unacceptable. Rebecca, my office now. He was scrambling to clean up, snapping at other servers to help, offering to comp their entire meal. Natasha was still yelling, her face red with fury, but something in her eyes looked like fear. Just for a second, underneath all that anger, I saw panic. It's all right, Adrian said quietly, cutting through the chaos. His voice was calm, controlled. Accidents happen. We'll just order something else. But your suit, sir, and Ms. Natasha's dress, I said it's fine. There was steel in his voice now, the kind that made people stop talking and listen. I cleaned up as fast as I could, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold the dustpan. Every time I glanced up, I caught Adrian watching me with these sharp, calculating eyes. He knew. Somehow, he knew. The rest of my shift was a blur. Stuart was too busy dealing with the dinner rush to deal with me properly, so he just hissed that we'd talk after closing. I spent the next 3 hours in a fog, expecting security to escort me out any minute. Danny kept asking what happened, but I couldn't form words to explain. When the last customer finally left, and we'd cleaned up for the night, Stuart called me into his office. I was sure this was it. End of the line. Start job hunting tomorrow. But when I opened the door, Adrian Stone was sitting in the chair across from Stuart's desk. My stomach dropped. "Rebecca, Mr. Stone would like to speak with you," Stuart said, his voice strained. "I'll give you some privacy." He left, closing the door behind him, and suddenly I was alone with one of the most powerful men in the city. "Sit down," Adrian said. It wasn't harsh, but it wasn't a request either. I sat, my hands clasped in my lap to hide the shaking. "That was quite a fall you took tonight," he said, leaning back in his chair. "You've been serving me for 2 years. I've never seen you drop so much as a napkin." I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. "So I'm going to ask you a very simple question, and I want a very honest answer." He leaned forward, his eyes boring into mine. "Why did you really spill that tray?" The room felt too small, too hot. I could lie. Make up some excuse about being tired or distracted. Keep my head down and hope this all went away. But those eyes... He already knew. Somehow he already knew. "I saw her," I whispered. "I saw Natasha put something in your wine." The words hung in the air between us. For a long moment, Adrian didn't react. Then he let out a slow breath. "Tell me exactly what you saw." So I did. Every detail. The small vial, the quick movement, the way she stirred it with her finger, that threatening look she gave me. As I talked, Adrian's expression grew darker. "I might be wrong," I added quickly. "Maybe it was medicine or something. I don't know. But something felt wrong and I couldn't let you drink it. I'm sorry if I overreacted, "Don't apologize," he cut me off. "Do you know how many people would have just looked the other way?" I didn't know what to say to that. Adrian pulled out his phone and made a call. "Yes, I need a private lab analysis. Urgent. I'll send someone with the sample tonight." He hung up and looked at me. The tablecloth from our table. "Your manager saved it, hoping to bill me for dry cleaning. I'm having the wine residue tested." My eyes widened. "You believe me?" "I've been sick," he said quietly. "On and off for the past 2 months. Stomach problems, headaches, fatigue. Doctors can't find anything wrong. But it only happens after Friday dinners." His jaw clenched. I was starting to think I was going crazy. Oh my God. "I want you to go home," Adrian continued. "Don't talk to anyone about this. Not your co-workers, not your friends, nobody. I'll contact you when I have the results. Can you do that?" I nodded, still in shock. "And Rebecca?" He stood up. "Thank you. Whatever happens, thank you for not looking the other way." He left, and I just sat there in that tiny office, my entire world tilted on its axis. The next few days were torture. I went to work, I served tables, I smiled at customers, but my mind was somewhere else. Every time the restaurant door opened, I jumped. Natasha didn't come back, but I felt her presence everywhere, like a ghost haunting my shifts. On Wednesday, she found me. I was walking to my car after closing, exhausted and anxious, when she stepped out of the shadows of the parking garage. I actually screamed. "Relax," she said, her voice smooth and cold. "I just want to talk. I don't have anything to say to you." "Oh, I think you do." She moved closer, and I could smell her expensive perfume. "You made quite a scene last Friday." "Adrian's been acting strange ever since. Did you tell him something?" My mouth went dry. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't play stupid with me." Her voice dropped, dangerous now. "I know you saw something, and I know you're smart enough to keep your mouth shut." She pulled out an envelope from her purse and held it out to me. "There's $10,000 in here. Cash. All you have to do is tell Adrian you made a mistake. that you didn't see anything, that you were tired and confused and you're very sorry for causing trouble. I stared at the envelope. $10,000. That was everything. That was my rent for months. That was my loans. That was breathing room I'd never had. And if I don't, her smile was all teeth, then I'll make sure you never work in this city again. I'll destroy you, your reputation, your career, your life. You're nobody, sweetheart. I'm someone. Who do you think people will believe? She pressed the envelope against my chest. Think about it. You have until Friday. Then she was gone, her heels clicking away into the darkness, leaving me standing there with an envelope full of money and a choice that felt like it was crushing my chest. I didn't sleep that night, or the next. The envelope sat on my kitchen table, unopened, mocking me. $10,000. All I had to do was lie. Say I made a mistake. Let whatever was happening to Adrian continue to happen. It wasn't my business. It wasn't my problem. I was just a waitress. But I couldn't stop thinking about the way Adrian had looked at me in that office. Do you know how many people would have just looked the other way? Most people, probably. Most people would have taken the money and run. On Friday morning, my phone rang. Unknown number. Rebecca, it's Adrian Stone. Can we meet? I have the results. We met at a coffee shop far from the restaurant. Adrian looked tired, like he hadn't slept any better than I had. He slid a folder across the table to me. Arsenic, he said quietly. Small doses, but enough to make someone very sick over time. Eventually, it would have killed me, made it look like a heart attack or organ failure. Very clever, actually. I felt sick. Oh my God. She's been poisoning me for 2 months, Adrian continued, his voice flat. Every Friday. The doctors thought it was stress or maybe an ulcer. I trusted her. I was going to marry her. I'm so sorry. Don't be sorry. You saved my life. He looked at me then, really looked at me. I need your help one more time. The police want to catch her in the act. They want to set up a sting, another dinner, cameras, witnesses, but it only works if everything seems normal. And normal means you working that night. My hand started shaking again. She threatened me. She offered me money to lie about what I saw. I know, she's desperate, which makes her dangerous. Adrian leaned forward. I won't force you to do this. I'm asking, will you help me? I thought about that envelope at home, about Natasha's threats, about how easy it would be to just walk away from all of this. Yes, I heard myself say. Yes, I'll help. The following Friday, I showed up to work with my stomach in knots. The restaurant was set up with hidden cameras everywhere. There were undercover police officers seated at 3 different tables. Adrian had briefed me on everything. Act normal, serve them normally, and when Natasha makes her move, a signal would be given and officers would move in. When Adrian and Natasha walked in that evening, I thought I might throw up. She was wearing a red dress this time, smiling that perfect smile, playing the devoted girlfriend. If I didn't know better, I'd never suspect a thing. I took their order, the usual, and tried to keep my hand steady. The sommelier poured their wine, and I went back to the kitchen to wait. Through the window, I watched them. Natasha laughing. Adrian pretending everything was normal. The wine glasses sitting between them like loaded guns. Then it happened. Quick as before, she slipped her hand into her purse, pulled out that small vial, moved to empty it into Adrian's glass. Police! Don't move. Everything happened at once. Officers converged from 3 directions. Natasha's face went from smug confidence to absolute shock in half a second. She dropped the vial, and it shattered on the floor, clear liquid spreading across the expensive hardwood. You can't. This is. Adrian, tell them this is a mistake. She was reaching for him, but officers were already pulling her hands behind her back. It's over, Natasha, Adrian said, his voice cold. I know everything. The poison, the insurance policies you took out on my life. Your boyfriend who's been waiting for me to die so you two can run off with my money. It's all over." Her face twisted into something ugly. "You're nothing," she screamed at him. "You were so easy. So trusting. I would have gotten away with it if it wasn't for that stupid, worthless waitress." She turned her venomous gaze on me, and for a second, I actually stepped back. But Adrian moved between us. "That worthless waitress is worth 100 of you. She had the courage to do the right thing when it could have cost her everything. What do you have? Nothing but greed and lies." They took her away in handcuffs, still screaming. Her boyfriend was arrested the same night at their secret apartment. The whole thing was on the news by morning. CEO's girlfriend arrested in murder-for-hire plot. Waitress hero saves the day. My life became chaos. Reporters camped outside my apartment. My phone wouldn't stop ringing. Everyone wanted an interview, wanted my story, wanted to turn me into some kind of hero. But Adrian, true to his word, shielded me from most of it. His lawyers handled the press. His security made sure I could still get to work without being mobbed. A week after the arrest, Adrian asked to meet me again. Same coffee shop. "I owe you everything," he said. "And I want to pay you back." "You don't owe me anything." "Yes, I do. You risked your job, your safety, everything to save me. Let me help you." He slid another envelope across the table, this one much thicker than Natasha's had been. Inside was a check, a very large check, large enough to pay off all my student loans, large enough to change my life. "I can't accept this," I whispered, even though my hands were shaking. "Yes, you can, but that's not all." He pulled out more papers. "I did some research on you. You have a business degree. You've always wanted to open a cafe. So I have a proposal. Let me invest in your dream. Not as charity, but as a business partner. I think you have something valuable that most people in my world have lost: integrity. I want that in my business portfolio." I started crying right there in the coffee shop. Ugly, messy tears. Because this wasn't just about money. This was about someone seeing me, really seeing me, as more than just a waitress, as someone with value, with potential, with dreams worth investing in. 6 months later, I'm sitting in my own cafe. It's small, cozy, and everything I'd imagined. The walls are painted a soft yellow, sunlight streams through the windows, and the smell of fresh coffee fills the air. Danny works with me as my assistant manager. Adrian drops by sometimes, usually early in the morning before his meetings, and we've become unlikely friends. Natasha and her boyfriend are serving 20 years each. The trial was all over the news. Adrian had to testify about the months of sickness, the suspicious insurance policies, the secret bank accounts. It was ugly and public and painful for him. But he survived it. He survived everything. Looking back, I think about that moment a lot. Standing there with a tray in my hands and a choice to make. I could have looked away, kept my head down, stayed in my lane. Most people would have. Most people do. But something my grandmother used to tell me kept echoing in my head that night. When you have a chance to do the right thing, you take it. Even if it's hard. Especially if it's hard. Because that's what separates people who just exist from people who actually live. I was tired of just existing. Tired of being invisible. Tired of playing it safe while the world happened around me. So I made a choice. A terrifying, potentially life-ruining choice. And it changed everything. Not just for Adrian, though saving his life matters more than I can put into words, but for me too. It taught me that I was stronger than I thought, that my voice mattered, that even someone like me, broke, struggling, invisible, could make a difference. The cafe is busy today. A young couple on a first date in the corner, a student studying for exams with headphones on, a businessman typing frantically on his laptop. They don't know my story. To them, I'm just the owner, bringing them coffee with a smile. And that's okay. I don't need to be a hero. I just need to be someone who, when the moment came, chose kindness over comfort, courage over convenience. Adrian stops by just before closing. He's been in back-to-back meetings all day and looks exhausted. I make him his usual, black coffee, no sugar, and sit down across from him. "Long day?" I ask. "Always." He smiles tiredly. "But I'm alive to have long days. Thanks to you." "You need to stop saying that. It's been 6 months." "I'll stop saying it when it stops being true." He takes a sip of his coffee and looks around the cafe. "You've built something good here, something real. I'm proud to be a part of it." Coming from him, that means everything. As I lock up for the night, I think about that envelope Natasha gave me, the one with $10,000 that I never opened. I gave it to the police as evidence. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd taken it, if I'd looked the other way, if I'd chosen the easy path. But then I look at this cafe, at the life I'm building, at the person I've become, and I know I made the right choice. The hard choice. The choice that cost me sleep and safety and peace of mind. But the choice that gave me something more valuable. The ability to look at myself in the mirror and be proud of who I see. So that's my story. The night I chose to speak up instead of staying quiet. The night I decided that doing the right thing mattered more than keeping my head down. It wasn't easy. It wasn't safe. But it was worth it. Because at the end of the day, we all have those moments. Those split-second decisions where we choose who we're going to be. Are we going to be the person who looks away? Or the person who stands up, even when we're scared? Even when it might cost us everything? I chose to stand up, and it changed my life. What would you choose? So that's my story. The night I chose to speak up instead of staying quiet. Have you ever had to make a choice like that? A moment where doing the right thing meant risking everything? Drop your stories in the comments below. I'd love to hear them. And if this story made you think, hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Maybe someone who's facing their own impossible choice right now. Maybe someone who needs to be reminded that courage doesn't mean not being afraid. It means doing what's right even when you're terrified. Subscribe for more incredible real-life stories like this one, and I'll see you in the next video. Until then, remember, trust your gut, stand up for what's right, and never underestimate the power of one person choosing to be brave. You never know whose life you might save, including your own. Take care, everyone, and thank you for listening.